Welcome back to the Investor Minded Framework. In this video, we're going to talk about building your team. So this is the next step of the process. We want to really make sure we've got all the people together that are able to help us succeed so that we can help them succeed in the process of buying real estate. So one of the first things we'll look at is your real estate agent. We'll also talk about a lender, an insurance agent, an inspector, a contractor, and contractor can mean a couple of different things. Also CPA, property manager, and also an attorney if you need it. That can also vary by the area that you live in as well. So the first one is real estate agent, me, someone who understands real estate investment at its core, has lived it, has breathed it, and wants to help you do the exact same thing in the best way possible. That's your investor minded agent, somebody who cares about the process of investing in real estate, no matter what kind of property we're talking about. So you should be able to ask those questions. Honestly, some of the questions we've already discussed to that agent, and they should be able to give you direct answers that you can trust. Beyond that, you're also going to look at your lender. The lender is going to be there to help you understand what you can qualify for when it comes to buying real estate. Also, whether or not that property qualifies for lending. So I'll give you an example of a transaction that I had gone through where we found out later on down the line that a property didn't qualify for lending. We ended up in contract for a triplex that was in the greater Lafayette area. We get to the very end of the process when it comes to the actual transaction. We end up finding out that the property was not correctly zoned. So, based on the area it was located, if it were to be demolished in any way, if it were rebuilt, it would have had to be a duplex. So, I had options at that point. I could try to have the property rezoned, or I could just leave it as it is and let the owner continue to own it in the way that he did. And that was fine. I ended up moving on from that transaction, but I also learned a lot from the transaction, and I believe that the owner was able to learn a lot from it as well. There was no harm done to either side. It didn't cost the owner of the property anything because I was the one who took on the expenses, and it was an off market transaction. So it wasn't like there was any kind of advertising expenses either. So it's a win-win for both for both parties. And the owner got to learn what the property was worth as well, if they were to decide to market it in the future. With a good real estate agent, they're going to be able to get you tied up with a good lender to be able to help see those things ahead of time. We move on to an insurance agent. So there's a couple of different things you can do when it comes to insurance. There's commercial insurance and there's also residential insurance. Luckily, a lot of things I've dealt with have been in the residential sphere, but I also hope to expand to the commercial sphere with the goal of expanding to apartment buildings in the future due to economies of scale and the benefits that can come with that. Developing better systems that are able to sustain that as well. With insurance, you should be able to do the same thing as you would with any of the parties in this roll of topics. You should be able to go to maybe three or more and then kind of compare how good they are at what they do based off of the prior experience they've had. They should be able to show you a record of their work and then also compare what their cost is going to be because that's something you're going to have to probably pay for at the end of the day. So with your insurance provider, I always look at three different insurance providers in the area that at least can service the property. And so that could be just talking with those insurance providers. Hey, I'm looking at this property. What would insurance look like for this? And you should be able to get a pretty good quote on what insurance is going to be. I would always add 5% to it, just as I do with really anything, just because I know that there's a chance costs will go up over time and I'd rather be safe than sorry. And insurance is also what's going to make sure that if you do have any disaster happen, that you're still able to make do with the property that you bought. That can help you if you have any major issues. And then an inspector is also going to be there to help prevent you from getting into a property that has major issues. Inspectors I would also shop around with. Unfortunately, with inspectors, you generally end up learning through the process of inspecting properties. So I've worked with multiple inspectors, seen their work. I can grade their work based off of the reports that they give me, the feedback they give me, their thoughts on the property compared to other properties that they've toured. And that's what allows you to really shape up a good idea of what the cost is going to be to repair that property. But I wouldn't let the inspector tell me that cost. That's when the contractor comes into play. I want to be able to take that inspection, those line items that are pretty rough looking, and I want to take it to that contractor, my trusted contractor, whether it be a plumber, just a general contractor that handles some basic fixes here and there, or very in-depth ones like an electrician, and have them be able to give me quotes, even from touring the property too, as to what it's going to cost to repair any of the issues. Because honestly, all properties have issues, big and small. Hopefully, you are able to find a property that only has small ones. But I would be surprised if you don't have at least one big issue, because some issues are always going to be bigger than others. And taking that to the contractor and fully understanding what it's going to cost to repair that property matters a lot, especially when we get into the next step of the process when it comes to learning the numbers. You also want to make sure you have a good CPA. CPAs that can help to shop around. I've had multiple in my time while investing. And while I'm very focused on the numbers side of things, I'm very analytical. There may be things that I may see, and there may be things that other people may see before I see them. But understanding whether or not that CPA is really minded towards real estate as well. I was able to reach out to local realtors here in my area and get to know who they recommended when it comes to CPAs. And this is something you can do for any of these people a part of your team, because you want to have a team of people that you're comfortable working alongside for the long haul. You want to make sure that you're able to help them as long as possible, because every single person on this list has something that they're pursuing as well. There's a reason why they do that job. A lot of these jobs are not easy jobs. Real estate is not an easy process. And so being able to help them succeed is one of the best things you can do when it comes to real estate. Every single part of this process, you're allowing that person to have a job that is fulfilling, something that they care about. And so having a CPA that's financially minded is what allows you to continue the business as well. They can help you understand any of the tax implications when it comes to real estate, any of the tax benefits when it comes to real estate, to help ensure that you can succeed. You don't want to leave anything on the table when it comes to real estate, because it's funds that you could be reinvesting back into the property to also help the current residents, provide them with a good space to live in. So that CPA should be able to give you all the information that you need when it comes to taxes, and they can also help you when it comes to the end of the year for taxes as well, the beginning of the new year, to ensure that everything is recorded properly and you're not leaving anything on the table when it comes to investing in real estate. A property manager, while I don't personally have any experience working with property managers, as every property I've worked with so far I've self-managed just due to the scale so far, it's something I hope to work with in the future. I have gone through the process of reaching out to local real estate agents and other investor-minded people in the area to understand some of the major property managers in my area, getting an idea of the cost. 8 to 12% of each month could go to property management. That also allows you to build your numbers. One of the worst things you can do is buy a bunch of real estate and then later on find out that you have to cut 12% of it or 10% of it or even 8% of it to give to somebody to manage it. While they should be managing it well and that takes something off your plate, if the numbers don't make sense, you're going to be losing money. And not just on a little bit, but a lot of real estate. And that's not a small issue to have. So building your numbers around that can matter so much. And then also an attorney to make sure that any legal documentation that you have is drafted properly. If you have any legal issues come up with a resident that lives on that property, a resident that damages the property in any way, you'd like to make sure you have good legal representation to help you through those issues. And at the end of this process, you should be able to look at all those people that have a seat at the table and say, I have my team. And at that point, you know you're ready to move on to the next part of the process.